Let's break it down straight from the hill to your hometown. No spin, no hype, just facts we find. AI's on the case, no truth left behind. Laws are written, deals are made. Who's got your back, who's throwing shade? We cut through the noise, decode the text, keeping it real. Congress in context, Congress in context, shining the light, breaking it down so you know what's right. Policies, votes, who's working for you? We bring the facts, the power is you.
Welcome to Congress in Context.
Yeah.
Today we're doing a deep dive into the Congressional Record, specifically from March 11, 2025. We're going to be sifting through all the dense policy discussions and pulling out the really interesting nuggets.
Yeah.
The big bills, the heated debates.
The human side.
The human side, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're going to uncover some pretty captivating stuff today.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
We've got a potential sale of a historic landmark tied to the civil rights era.
Wow.
Yeah, causing quite a stir. And then there's this proposed bill about regulating AI and its impact on the future of work. And we'll hear directly from people whose lives are being impacted by the current administration's actions.
Oh, wow.
From funding freezes to job losses.
Yeah.
And plus, we'll touch on what's happening with Ukraine and America's role in it all. Are you ready to get started?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Okay, so flipping through the record, one thing that struck me right away is how Congress isn't always this big, impersonal machine.
Yeah.
There are moments where you see these real human connections shining through.
Right.
It's fascinating.
Yeah. And that's
how woven into these complex policy discussions are stories about everyday people.
Yeah.
And you see representatives taking time to honor individuals from their districts. There's Avery Powell, who got appointed to the Naval Academy, and Juso Walden, who's heading to West Point.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Those are some huge achievements.
Yeah. And it's nice to see them acknowledged.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's not just about celebrating successes. There are moments of reflection, too, like the passing of Mickey Harmon and Jordan Salato. It's a reminder that even in the midst of all this political wrangling, there's still a sense of community and shared humanity.
Absolutely.
And then, you stumble upon things like the celebration of 314 Day.
Oh, okay.
For pie.
Right.
Which shows that there's room for a little lighthearted fun in Congress, too.
Of course. Of course. Got to have a little fun.
Right. It's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
But let's be real. The serious stuff definitely takes center stage. Take, for example, the fiery debate over the continuing resolution, the CR.
Okay.
This is where things get really interesting. You've got Democrats accusing Republicans of trying to gut safety net programs with a chainsaw.
Yeah.
While Republicans are pushing back, saying the CR is the only way to avoid a government shutdown.
Right.
You can almost feel the tension.
Yeah, you could feel
through
it.
the pages,
Yeah.
can't you? This is one of those classic Washington standoffs.
Absolutely.
Where both sides are dug in.
Yes.
And the stakes are incredibly high. It's not just a political game. This is about people's lives.
Right.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, is this a necessary evil to keep the government running? Or are we setting ourselves up for trouble down the road?
That's a question a lot of people are asking.
Yeah. You can see how real people are getting caught in the crossfire. There's the story of Carrie Schmidt, who got laid off from Catoctin Mountain Park because of cuts to the National Park Service. That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And it's not just her. You read about a constituent worried about losing their job at a nonprofit because of proposed foreign aid cuts.
Wow.
And then there's the veteran who's anxious about potentially losing their health care due to possible Medicaid cuts.
Yeah, that's...
It's a stark reminder that these budget decisions aren't just abstract numbers on a spreadsheet. They have real-world consequences for real people.
Real people, yeah.
It makes you realize the weight of these decisions.
It does.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And speaking of tough decisions, the Pandemic Unemployment Fraud Enforcement Act, or H.R. 156, is another hot-button issue.
Okay.
Oh, this is a tricky one. On one hand, you have Republicans, rightly so, wanting to claw back billions of dollars lost to fraud. They're saying extending the statute of limitations is the only way to track down the culprits and get that taxpayer money back.
Right.
But then you have Democrats who are worried about punishing people who may have unknowingly received improper payments. Remember those early days of the pandemic were chaotic.
Absolutely, yeah.
What if someone made an honest mistake?
Right.
Right. And they point to cases like Stephanie Mendenhall in Iowa.
Yeah.
Who intentionally defrauded the system.
Right.
But their worry is that this bill might be too broad, potentially sweeping up innocent people in its net.
Right. Too broad.
And then you layer on the whole issue of fraudsters using stolen identities of California wildfire victims to exploit disaster unemployment benefits.
Wow.
It just gets more complicated.
That's a tough one.
It's a tough situation to navigate.
Yeah.
How do you strike a balance between holding people accountable and protecting those who might have been caught up in a system that was, let's be honest, overwhelmed?
Right.
It's a question with no easy answers.
Yeah.
And speaking of complicated, let's jump into the digital world. The IRS Digital Assets Sale and Exchanges Rule is causing quite a commotion.
Oh, yeah. I've heard a lot about this one.
You're telling me it's like Congress is trying to catch up with the Wild West of crypto. Republicans are arguing that this rule, which aims to regulate digital asset sales and exchanges, is going to stifle innovation,
Right.
particularly in the blockchain space.
Yeah.
They specifically worry about the impact on decentralized finance platforms, the so-called DeFi exchanges.
Okay. I see.
I can see their point.
Yeah.
We're still in the early days of this technology.
Right.
Do we want to risk hindering its growth with overregulation?
That's a good point. Yeah.
But Democrats are pushing back, saying this rule is crucial to preventing tax evasion and criminal activity. They're worried it could create a loophole for bad actors.
Yeah.
It's like that classic tension between fostering innovation and ensuring responsible development. And it's playing out right here in the Congressional Record.
That's a really good point.
It feels like every page we turn brings up another issue with massive implications.
Yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
It does.
Okay, switching gears for a moment, let's talk about what's happening with Ukraine, because it's definitely a major theme in the record on this day. Yeah. It's interesting to see Senator Grassley recognizing Lithuania's declaration of independence, which feels particularly relevant right now
Yeah.
with what's happening in Ukraine.
Yeah.
That fight for freedom and self-determination definitely echoes across history.
Right.
Definitely. And then you see the debate about how much support the U.S. should continue to provide to Ukraine. There are those who argue it's crucial to stand firm against aggression and defend democratic values.
Right.
But others are raising concerns about the risks of escalating the conflict and whether we should be prioritizing domestic issues.
Wow.
It's such a weighty issue.
Yeah.
And you can see the different perspectives playing out.
Absolutely.
And then you come across the story of Bucha, a town near Kyiv where Russian forces allegedly committed horrific atrocities. It's a stark reminder of the human cost of this war.
Right. Yeah.
Senator Welch's statement about the need for a lasting peace that respects Ukraine's sovereignty really stuck with me. It's easy to get caught up in the political maneuvering, but ultimately we need to remember that peace and justice should be the end goal.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to something a little closer to home, but just as important. Healthcare accessibility.
Okay.
This is a big one. The Congressional Record shows a heated debate about expanding Medicare to include dental, hearing, and vision coverage. This could have a major impact on millions of seniors.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Proponents are arguing that these services are essential for overall health and well-being. They highlight the fact that so many seniors lack dental insurance and can't afford the care they need.
Right.
And that can lead to serious health problems down the road,
Yeah.
right? Untreated dental problems, for example, can affect your overall health in ways people might not realize.
That's true. Yeah.
But opponents, while acknowledging the need, are worried about the cost of such a major expansion. They're calling for a more cautious approach to ensure it's financially sustainable. It's another example of how Congress is constantly trying to balance competing priorities. Everyone wants better health care, but how do you make it happen within the constraints of the budget?
Right.
It's a challenge, that's for sure. And you can see those challenges playing out in the Congressional Record every single day.
Absolutely.
So we've covered a lot of ground already. We've seen the personal stories, the budget battles, and the emerging challenges like digital assets. Where do we go from here?
Let's keep going. There's so much more to uncover.
Stay with us as we dive deeper into even more fascinating discussions and debates that shapes this day in Congress.
It's really fascinating.
You know what else really struck me
Yeah.
as we were going through this material?
Uh-huh.
How the Congressional Record doesn't just focus on these huge national issues.
Right.
It also zooms in on individual stories
Right.
that really bring home the impact of policy decisions.
Yeah, it's like those individual stories
Right.
give you a close-up view
Right.
of the ripple effects these
Yeah.
debates have
Ex-
on people's lives.
For instance, there's the story of Chris LeBron Romero, a student from Connecticut.
Okay.
His school had this program, the Green Jobs Corps, that got hit by the federal funding freeze.
Oh, wow.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does.
This kid was relying on that program for work experience and to help support his family.
Yeah.
It's a stark reminder that these funding decisions aren't just about numbers in a budget. They have real-world consequences for real people.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like those funding cuts become a roadblock on someone's path
Right.
to a brighter future.
Absolutely, and it underscores the importance of transparency
Yes.
and accountability in government. We need to understand how these decisions are made,
Yeah.
what the impact is going to be.
I agree.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, the Congressional Record also takes us behind the scenes
Yeah.
of the various committees and subcommittees where so much of the legislative work gets done.
Right.
Yeah, and I found myself getting kind of drawn into the workings of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence.
Okay.
Their rules and procedures are fascinating.
Oh, wow.
It's like getting a glimpse into a world that's usually shrouded in secrecy.
Yeah.
You see how they try to balance the need for secrecy with the importance of oversight?
Right.
They have all these strict rules about classified information and disclosing sensitive details.
Yeah, I have to.
It makes you realize how delicate that balance is.
It is.
You need to protect national security, but you also need to ensure that intelligence agencies aren't operating with unchecked power.
Right, exactly. And their subcommittee structure is pretty interesting, too.
Oh, yeah.
They have groups focusing on everything from the CIA and counterintelligence to the National Intelligence Enterprise.
Wow.
It just shows how vast and complex the intelligence community really is.
It's kind of mind-boggling when you think about everything they're responsible for.
It is.
And the fact that the Congressional Record sheds light on even a sliver of that is pretty remarkable.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
Okay, so in addition to the debates and the behind-the-scenes committee work, we also see a ton of bills being introduced covering every imaginable issue.
Yeah, it's like a snapshot of the legislative landscape.
Right.
You can see what's on the minds of our elected officials,
Yeah.
what they're prioritizing,
Right.
what battles they're gearing up for.
For example, we have H.R. 2054,
Okay.
a bill proposing that states can't use languages other than English in their election materials.
Oh, wow.
That's a controversial one.
It is.
I can see that sparking a major debate about voter access and representation for non-English speaking communities.
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes you think about the unintended consequences
Right.
of seemingly simple policies.
Right.
Something like language choice can have a huge impact on who feels welcome and able to participate in the democratic process.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of considering those potential consequences
Yes.
before passing any legislation,
Right.
especially when it comes to something as fundamental as voting rights.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely fundamental.
Another bill that jumped out was H.R. 2059, which seeks to restrict the export of certain defense articles to the United Arab Emirates.
Okay.
That one seems to be rooted in concerns about arms proliferation. You know, the fear that weapons we sell to one country could end up in the wrong hands.
Right. Yeah.
It's a reminder that foreign policy decisions are rarely simple.
They're not.
You have to think about the strategic implications, the potential risks, and of course, the ethical considerations.
Of course.
And sometimes those considerations clash,
They do.
making these decisions incredibly difficult.
Too difficult, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about H.R. 2072, which proposes extending the deadline for certain hydropower projects to start construction.
Okay.
This one takes us into the world of energy policy.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like there's an ongoing tug-of-war between promoting renewable energy sources
Yeah.
and navigating the practical challenges of transitioning to a more sustainable energy future.
Right.
Proponents of this bill are arguing that extending the deadline would give these hydropower projects more time to get funding and navigate all the regulatory hurdles.
Right.
They're saying it's a crucial step to increase hydropower generation.
Okay.
But opponents are pushing back, arguing that this could actually slow down the shift
Right.
to cleaner energy sources.
Yeah.
They're worried about getting stuck in the past instead of moving toward a more sustainable future.
That makes sense.
It's another example of how seemingly technical policy decisions can have these ripple effects
Yeah.
that touch on everything from the environment to our national energy strategy.
They do. It's true.
And sometimes those effects are difficult to predict, which makes these debates even more challenging.
Absolutely.
The Congressional Record also sheds light on efforts to strengthen the defense partnership between the United States and Israel, as reflected in S. 54.
Okay.
This one seems to be about bolstering a long-standing alliance.
Right.
It reflects the shared security challenges these two nations face and the importance of presenting a united front.
Yeah. That's important.
It's interesting how the record allows you to track the evolution of these international relationships, and the different ways they manifest in policy.
Right.
Yeah, you can see how foreign policy is often built on a foundation of shared interests and values. And sometimes maintaining those relationships requires a delicate balance between cooperation
Right.
and, at times, maybe even a bit of tough love.
A little tough love.
Okay, now let's look at a bill with significant implications for housing,
Okay.
S955.
Okay.
This one caught my eye because it aims to establish due process requirements for investigations in college athletics.
Oh, wow.
It seems like a response to those concerns we've been hearing about fairness and transparency in the way these investigations are handled.
Okay. Yeah.
It makes you realize how these broader conversations about accountability and fairness are playing out in very specific contexts.
They are. Yeah.
And in this case, it's within the world of college sports, which has been under a lot of scrutiny lately,
Yeah.
right? Especially with all the debates about athlete compensation and fair treatment.
Absolutely.
This bill seems to be trying to address those concerns and ensure that athletes have a voice and a fair shake when it comes to these investigations.
It's a good thing.
Speaking of fairness, there's also some discussion in the Congressional Record about the treatment of organ donors.
Oh, okay.
Oh, this is an interesting one.
Yeah.
S957 proposes eliminating the consideration of an organ recipient's income when reimbursing donors for expenses.
Okay.
It raises some big questions about equity and access to organ transplantation.
It does.
It makes you wonder, should someone's ability to afford an organ transplant be a factor in whether they receive one?
Yeah.
And what about the financial burden on the donor?
Right.
This bill seems to be trying to level the playing field a bit.
Yeah.
Proponents of this bill are arguing that considering income creates a financial barrier that discourages some people from becoming organ donors,
Right.
potentially reducing the number of organs available.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a reminder that healthcare policy often involves these complex ethical and financial considerations
It does.
that are tough to untangle.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Absolutely. Okay, let's dive into the world of finance for a moment. The Helping More Families Save Act sounds like a promising initiative.
Okay.
The senator from Missouri really championed this one.
Okay.
It's all about expanding the Family Self-Sufficiency Program, or FSS.
Okay.
The goal is to help low-income families build their savings and achieve financial independence.
That's a good goal.
It's a great example of how Congress can use its power to create opportunities for upward mobility.
Yeah.
Instead of just providing a temporary safety net, this program aims to equip people with the tools they need to build a better future.
I like that.
The senator from Missouri presented a compelling argument.
Yeah.
They emphasized how this program benefits families,
Uh-huh.
helps the federal budget in the long run, and boosts our economy as a whole.
Yeah. That's a win-win.
It's a reminder that effective policy can have these positive ripple effects that extend beyond just the individuals directly impacted by the program.
That's a great point.
And it's encouraging to see lawmakers prioritizing initiatives that empower people to take control of their financial well-being.
It is.
Now let's shift gears to a topic that's steeped in history. The potential sale of a national historic landmark with deep ties to the civil rights movement.
Okay.
This is Montgomery Greyhound bus station, right?
Yeah.
The one that played such a pivotal role in the freedom rides of the 1960s.
That's the one.
That's the one. And the representative from Alabama is fiercely opposing the sale.
Okay.
They argued that selling this landmark would be a betrayal of the legacy of the civil rights movement and a disservice to all those who fought for equality.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that historical landmarks hold immense cultural and symbolic value.
They do.
They're not just buildings, they're tangible representations of our past, and we have to treat them with respect and sensitivity. And sometimes preserving those landmarks means taking a stand against economic pressures or development plans.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that some things are simply priceless.
I agree.
Okay. So beyond these individual bills and debates, the Congressional Record also reveals these broader legislative trends and political dynamics that are shaping the direction of our country.
Yeah.
One of the most recurring themes we see is the constant battle over government spending and budget priorities.
Right.
It seems like every page you turn,
Yeah.
you find both sides wrestling with how to balance competing demands for funding.
Yeah, it's that age-old struggle between those who advocate for increased spending in certain areas
Right.
and those who call for fiscal restraint and a smaller government footprint.
It makes you realize that there's no easy solution.
There's not.
Every dollar spent in one area is a dollar that can't be spent elsewhere.
Right.
So it's all about making tough choices and weighing priorities.
It is, and those choices are often informed by differing ideologies and visions for what the role of government should be in society.
Right.
It's a debate that's been going on for centuries and will likely continue for centuries to come.
And another recurring theme in the Congressional Record is the ongoing debate about America's role on the world stage.
Right.
Right? You see discussions about everything from foreign aid and military spending to diplomatic engagement
Yeah.
and our response to global crises.
Yeah,
It's fascinating to see how these different perspectives on foreign policy play out.
it is.
Some lawmakers advocate for a more assertive approach, arguing that America has a moral obligation to promote democracy and freedom around the world,
Yeah.
while others call for a more restrained approach, prioritizing diplomacy and multilateral cooperation over military intervention.
Right.
They express concerns about getting entangled in foreign conflicts and the cost, both financially and in terms of human life,
Mm-hmm.
of maintaining a global military presence.
Right.
It's a complex debate with no easy answers.
It is.
And the Congressional Record provides this valuable platform for understanding these different viewpoints
Yeah.
and engaging in a more nuanced conversation about America's place in the world.
It does. It's like looking through a kaleidoscope of perspectives,
Right.
each one offering a different view of how America should navigate the global landscape.
And speaking of perspectives, it's also heartwarming to see how the Congressional Record shines a light on the positive contributions
Yes.
of individuals and organizations across the country.
Absolutely.
It's like a reminder that amidst all the political wrangling
Yeah.
and partisan battles,
Uh-huh.
there's still so much good happening in communities across America.
There is.
You see representatives taking the time to recognize the achievements of people in their districts,
Yeah.
celebrating those who are making a difference, big or small.
Exactly.
For example, there's a representative from Pennsylvania honoring Access Independence,
Yeah.
an organization that provides support for people with disabilities. Their work is all about enabling people to live independently and participate fully in their communities.
That's wonderful.
And then there's the representative from Arizona recognizing Wolfgang Weber, a dedicated soccer coach
Oh, wow.
who's clearly touched countless lives through his passion for the sport.
That's great.
It's those moments that remind you that there are people out there, day in and day out, working to make their communities better.
Yeah.
And it's great to see them get recognized for their dedication.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like a little dose of hope and inspiration amidst all the heavier stuff we've been discussing.
And speaking of inspiration, the Congressional Record also documents efforts to preserve and celebrate our nation's history.
Okay.
It's like peeking into a time capsule.
Uh-huh.
You see lawmakers highlighting historical landmarks, remembering important events, and honoring individuals who have made significant contributions to our country.
Yeah.
For instance, the representative from Florida spoke about the history of the Biltmore Hotel in Miami, emphasizing its architectural significance and its role as a symbol of the city's rich past.
Yeah.
And then you have the representative from Michigan paying tribute to Dr. Rene Lichtman, a Holocaust survivor and activist who dedicated his life to sharing his story and advocating for justice.
Whoa.
It's a powerful reminder of the importance of remembering and learning from our past.
Absolutely. It's like each one of these stories is a thread woven into the fabric of our national identity.
Right.
By remembering them, we keep that fabric strong and vibrant.
And speaking of keeping things strong, let's talk about education.
Okay.
There are some pretty insightful discussions about education in the Congressional Record, reflecting the importance of investing in our nation's future.
Yeah.
It seems like everyone agrees that providing quality educational opportunities for all is crucial.
Yeah.
But then the debate arises when you start talking about how to achieve that goal.
Right.
Right? You see discussions about school funding,
Yeah.
teacher shortages, the ever-evolving curriculum standards, and the role of technology in the classroom. It's clear that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
No.
The representative from Alabama praised Dr. Walter Gonsolin, the superintendent of Jefferson County Schools,
Okay.
who was named the 2025 National Superintendent of the Year.
Oh, wow.
It's inspiring to see educators recognized for their dedication and innovation.
It is. Yeah.
And then you have the representative from North Carolina showing their support for 2 high school basketball teams from their district
Oh, cool.
who were competing for state championships.
Okay.
It highlights the role of athletics in building character,
Yeah,
fostering teamwork,
Yeah,
and
you're-
creating a sense of community.
it does.
It's a reminder that education isn't just about academics.
Right.
It's about shaping well-rounded individuals who can contribute to society in meaningful ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Congressional Record, in its own way, celebrates the power of education and the individuals who dedicate their lives to helping young people reach their full potential.
Absolutely. But amidst those celebrations, you also see some stark realities.
Yeah, you do.
Right? The Congressional Record doesn't shy away from the challenges facing our education system.
Right.
You see lawmakers grappling with issues like disparities in funding, achievement gaps between different groups of students, and the need to attract and retain qualified teachers.
Yeah.
It's a constant struggle to ensure that all students have access to a quality education, regardless of their background or zip code.
It's a tough one.
It's clear that there's no easy fix, but the fact that these issues are being discussed and debated is a positive sign.
It is.
It shows that lawmakers are aware of the challenges and are actively seeking solutions.
Yeah, they are.
And speaking of service, another theme that runs through the Congressional Record is the importance of public service and the individuals who dedicate their careers to serving the common good.
Yeah, public service is so important.
You see tributes to government employees who are retiring, recognitions of outstanding public servants,
Right.
and discussions about the challenges and rewards of working in government. It's a reminder that behind every policy decision, every government program, there are dedicated individuals working tirelessly to make things happen.
Yeah, that's true.
For example, the representative from Massachusetts honored Richie Perlman,
Okay.
a funeral director who has served his community with compassion and dignity for over 40 years.
Oh, wow. That's great.
It's a reminder that public service comes in many forms, and it's often those unsung heroes
Yeah,
who make the biggest difference in people's lives.
absolutely.
And then you have the representative from California paying tribute to Mia Love,
Okay.
a former congresswoman from Utah,
Right.
who has dedicated her career to public service.
Okay.
It's inspiring to see lawmakers who are committed to serving their communities even after they leave elected office.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like they're saying that public service isn't just a job, it's a calling, a way of life.
Right.
And it's a calling that deserves our respect and gratitude.
Now, another crucial theme that emerges from the Congressional Record is the constant push for transparency and accountability in government.
Right? You see discussions about oversight hearings,
Yeah.
investigations into potential wrongdoing,
Uh-huh.
and efforts to strengthen ethics rules
Yeah.
and promote good governance.
Right.
It's like a reminder that those in power are answerable to the people they serve, and that we need mechanisms in place to hold them accountable. For instance, the representative from Connecticut expressed concerns about the Department of Transportation's handling of aviation safety, citing a troubling record of inaction on implementing safety recommendations.
Wow.
It's a reminder that even the most powerful agencies and departments
Yeah.
need to be held accountable for their actions or lack thereof.
Absolutely.
And then you have the senator from Oregon calling for an enforceable code of conduct for Supreme Court justices,
Oh, wow.
arguing that this would strengthen public confidence in the judicial branch and ensure that justices are held to the highest ethical standards.
It's a reminder that no one is above the law and that maintaining public trust in our institutions requires transparency and accountability at every level.
I agree with that.
These discussions highlight the importance of checks and balances
Yes.
in our system of government.
Yeah.
No one branch, no one individual should have unchecked power.
Right.
And it's through mechanisms like oversight hearings, investigations, and ethics rules that we ensure that power is used responsibly and ethically.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's like a constant reminder that eternal vigilance is the price of liberty.
Right.
We can't afford to be complacent when it comes to holding our leaders accountable.
Okay, let's dive into a topic that's always front and center: the economy.
Okay.
The Congressional Record provides a real-time glimpse into the state of our economy, the challenges facing businesses and workers, and the never-ending debate over economic policy.
It is a never-ending debate.
You see discussions about job creation,
Right.
wage growth, the rising cost of living, trade policies, and the role of government in stimulating economic growth. It's like a pulse check on the financial health of our nation.
Yeah.
The representative from Minnesota expressed concerns about the impact of tariffs on American farmers and businesses,
Okay.
arguing that they could lead to higher prices for consumers and lost markets overseas.
Yeah.
And then you have the senator from California sounding the alarm about the potential for a recession, pointing to economic indicators that suggest a slowdown in growth.
Right.
It's like a constant tug-of-war between competing economic priorities.
It is, yeah.
Some argue that the best way to boost the economy is through tax cuts and deregulation,
Right.
while others advocate for increased government spending on infrastructure, education, and social programs.
Uh-huh.
And then there's the whole debate about globalization and the impact of free trade agreements on American jobs and businesses.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
No.
The Congressional Record doesn't provide those answers.
Right.
But it does offer a platform for understanding the different perspectives and engaging in a more informed debate about how to create a strong and sustainable economy that benefits all Americans.
Absolutely. And speaking of building a better future, the Congressional Record also delves into discussions about our nation's infrastructure.
Right. It seems like everyone agrees that we need to invest in our roads, bridges, airports, and other critical infrastructure.
Right.
The debate usually centers around how to fund those investments and which projects should be prioritized.
Of course.
The representative from Oklahoma stressed the importance of fully funding the payment in lieu of taxes program, or PLT,
Okay.
which helps local governments make up for lost property tax revenue from federal lands.
Yeah.
And the representative from Pennsylvania pushed for increased funding for Indian health services to improve access to health care for Native American communities.
Oh, wow.
It's a reminder that infrastructure isn't just about concrete and steel.
Right.
It's about investing in the health, well-being, and economic vitality of our communities.
Yeah.
And sometimes those investments require us to consider the unique needs
Yeah.
of specific communities and regions.
It's true.
And then, of course, there's the ever-present debate about healthcare.
Of course.
The Congressional Record offers a glimpse into the ongoing efforts to improve access to quality, affordable health care for all Americans.
Yeah, it's a debate that's been raging for decades, and it shows no signs of slowing down.
You see discussions about the Affordable Care Act,
Yeah.
Medicare or Medicaid,
Mm-hmm.
the skyrocketing cost of prescription drugs,
Right.
and the role of government in regulating the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers, and it touches on everything from personal beliefs about the role of government
Yeah.
to deeply held values about individual freedom and the right to quality health care.
Absolutely.
The representative from New York voiced concerns about the impact of budget cuts
Okay.
on healthcare services for veterans. It's a reminder that those who have served our country deserve access to quality healthcare, and that cutting funding for these services can have devastating consequences.
It can.
And the senator from Vermont made a passionate plea for expanding Medicare to cover dental, hearing, and vision care, arguing that these services are essential for the overall health and well-being of seniors.
Right.
It's a reminder that healthcare is about more than just treating illness. It's about promoting overall well-being
Yeah.
and ensuring that everyone had the opportunity to live a healthy and fulfilling life.
I agree.
These discussions highlight the need for a balanced approach to healthcare policy.
Right.
We need to consider the needs of patients, providers, and taxpayers.
Yeah.
And we need to find ways to ensure that healthcare is both affordable and accessible for everyone.
That's the goal.
It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube.
Uh-huh.
Every twist and turn affects something else.
Yeah.
And finding the right balance is a constant challenge.
It is a constant challenge.
Okay, let's shift our focus to another vital issue: the environment.
Okay.
The Congressional Record documents the ongoing debate about climate change,
Yeah.
environmental protection, conservation efforts, and the role of government in addressing the many challenges facing our planet.
Right.
It's like a barometer of how seriously we're taking the health of our planet.
Absolutely.
You see lawmakers expressing a range of views,
Yeah.
from those who advocate for aggressive action to combat climate change,
Right.
to those who express skepticism about the scientific consensus, or worry about the economic consequences of environmental regulations.
Yeah.
The representative from California made a strong case for increasing funding for environmental research and development,
Okay.
arguing that it's essential for developing innovative solutions to climate change and other environmental problems.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
And the senator from Washington stressed the importance of protecting our national parks and public lands,
Oh.
emphasizing their value for recreation, conservation, and economic development.
Right.
It's a reminder that environmental issues are intertwined with economic prosperity, public health, and our overall quality of life.
They are.
We can't afford to ignore them
No.
or treat them as separate from our other national priorities.
Right.
And then, of course, there's the always critical issue of national security.
Yeah.
The Congressional Record takes us into the discussions about terrorism, cybersecurity, defense spending, military operations, and the ever-evolving threats facing our nation.
It's a big one.
It's a reminder that even in times of relative peace, we can never let our guard down.
Right.
The world is a complex and dangerous place, and we need to be prepared to defend our interests and protect our citizens.
Absolutely.
The representative from Arizona advocated for strengthening border security measures to combat illegal immigration and drug trafficking.
Right.
And the senator from Virginia pushed for increased funding for cybersecurity initiatives to protect our critical infrastructure from cyber attacks.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that national security threats are constantly evolving, and we need to be adaptable and innovative in our approach to addressing them.
Absolutely.
These discussions highlight the importance of a multifaceted approach to national security.
Right.
It's not just about military might. It's about diplomacy, intelligence gathering, law enforcement, and a commitment to protecting our freedoms and our way of life.
I agree.
It's like building a fortress with many layers of defense.
Yeah.
Each one designed to protect us from a different type of threat.
Absolutely.
Now let's dive into an issue that often sparks passionate debate: immigration.
Okay.
The Congressional Record documents the ongoing struggle to create a fair and humane immigration system that balances the need for security
Right.
with the recognition of the contributions immigrants make to our country.
Absolutely.
You see lawmakers expressing a wide range of views, from those who advocate for stricter enforcement of immigration laws and limits on immigration, to those who call for a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants and a more welcoming approach.
Right.
The representative from Texas expressed concerns about the impact of illegal immigration on border communities,
Okay.
arguing that it strains resources and poses security risks.
Right.
And the senator from California highlighted the contributions of immigrants to our economy and society, arguing that we should create a more humane and efficient immigration system that recognizes the value they bring.
I agree.
These discussions reflect the deep divisions that exist in our society over immigration.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that finding common ground on this issue requires compassion, understanding, and a willingness to listen to different perspectives.
Absolutely. It's like trying to navigate a minefield.
Right.
Each step has to be carefully considered.
Yeah.
And there's always the risk of triggering an explosive reaction.
Now let's turn our attention to a topic that's at the heart of our national identity.
Social justice.
The Congressional Record documents the ongoing efforts to create a more just and equitable society for all Americans, regardless of race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, or any other characteristic.
Right.
You see lawmakers advocating for policies to address systemic inequalities, promote equal opportunity, and protect the rights of marginalized communities.
Yeah, it's important.
It's a reminder that the fight for justice and equality is a never-ending journey,
It is.
and that each generation has a responsibility to carry the torch forward.
Absolutely.
The representative from Georgia expressed strong support for legislation to strengthen voting rights protections,
Okay.
arguing that it's essential to ensure that everyone has a voice in our democracy.
It is.
And the senator from New York called for action to address the persistent gender pay gap
Right.
and promote economic opportunities for women,
Yeah.
arguing that we can't truly claim to be a just society until everyone has an equal chance to succeed. These discussions highlight the importance of using the legislative process to advance equality and fairness for all.
Absolutely.
And it's a reminder that while we've made progress in the fight for social justice, there's still much work to be done.
Yeah, it's like climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
We've made significant progress, but the summit is still ahead of us, and it will take continued effort and determination to reach it.
Now let's tackle an issue that often sparks passionate debate:
Yeah.
gun control.
Okay.
The Congressional Record documents the ongoing debate over how to balance the right to bear arms with the need to prevent gun violence.
Yeah.
It's a debate that's been raging for decades,
It has.
and it shows no signs of abating.
No.
You see lawmakers advocating
For a range of policies, from stricter background checks and bans on certain types of weapons to measures to promote responsible gun ownership and mental health services. It's a tough one.
The representative from Connecticut called for urgent action to reduce gun violence in the wake of a mass shooting, arguing that we need to enact common-sense gun safety measures to protect our communities.
Right.
And the senator from Texas defended the Second Amendment, arguing that law-abiding citizens have the right to own firearms for self-defense, and that any attempt to restrict gun ownership is an infringement on their constitutional rights.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
These discussions reflect the deep divisions that exist in our society over gun control.
They do.
It's a reminder that finding common ground on this issue requires respect for different viewpoints, a willingness to compromise, and a shared commitment to protecting both our rights and our safety.
It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Right.
There are so many different opinions and perspectives.
Yeah.
And finding a solution that satisfies everyone seems nearly impossible.
Right.
But we have to keep trying.
Okay, let's dive into another highly charged issue: abortion. The Congressional Record documents the ongoing debate over abortion rights, abortion access, and the legal and moral implications of abortion.
It's a big one.
It's a debate that often feels more like a battle,
Yeah.
with both sides entrenched in their positions and unwilling to give an inch.
It's true.
We see lawmakers expressing a wide range of views, from those who support a woman's right to choose and access to safe and legal abortion services, to those who believe that abortion is morally wrong and should be illegal in all or most cases.
Yeah.
The representative from California made a passionate plea for protecting a woman's right to make her own decisions about her body and her reproductive health, arguing that it's a fundamental right that should not be infringed upon.
Right.
And the senator from Alabama expressed his unwavering opposition to abortion, arguing that it's the taking of an innocent life and that we have a moral obligation to protect the unborn.
It's a tough one.
These discussions highlight the deeply personal and often conflicting beliefs that inform this debate. And it's a reminder that finding common ground on this issue requires empathy, understanding, and a willingness to listen to the experiences and perspectives of those who hold different views.
It's like trying to bridge a chasm.
Yeah.
The two sides seem so far apart, but somewhere in the middle, there might be a path to understanding and compromise.
Now let's shift our focus to another critical issue: criminal justice reform.
Okay.
The Congressional Record documents the ongoing efforts to address the many challenges facing our criminal justice system, including mass incarceration, racial disparities, police brutality, and the need to create a fairer and more just system for all.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that our criminal justice system is far from perfect,
It's not.
and that we have a moral obligation to address the injustices that plague it.
Right.
You see lawmakers advocating for a range of policies, from those that seek to reduce incarceration rates and address racial disparities, to those that focus on improving public safety and supporting law enforcement.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The representative from New York called for sweeping reforms to address police brutality and racial profiling, arguing that we need to create a system that treats everyone equally, regardless of their race or ethnicity.
Right.
And the senator from Louisiana advocated for tougher sentencing laws for violent criminals, arguing that we need to prioritize public safety and ensure that those who commit serious crimes are held accountable.
That's a hard one.
These discussions highlight the complexity of the criminal justice system
Yeah.
and the challenges of balancing the need for public safety
Right.
with the imperative to ensure fairness and justice for all.
It's true, yeah. It's like trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces.
Right.
We know there are problems, but finding the right solutions requires a careful and thoughtful approach.
Now, let's turn our attention to campaign finance reform, an issue that strikes at the heart of our democracy.
Okay.
The Congressional Record documents the ongoing debate over the role of money in politics, the influence of special interests, and the need for reforms to create a more level playing field.
Right.
It's a reminder that money talks in politics, and that those with deep pockets often have an outsized influence on our elections and the policies that get enacted.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true.
You see lawmakers advocating for a range of policies, from limits on campaign contributions and increased transparency in campaign financing to public financing of elections and overturning the Citizens United Supreme Court decision that has allowed corporations and wealthy individuals to spend unlimited amounts of money on elections.
Right.
The representative from Vermont made a passionate plea for overturning Citizens United, arguing that it has created a system where corporations and billionaires have more influence than ordinary citizens. And the senator from Arizona defended the right of individuals and groups to contribute to political campaigns, arguing that it's a form of free speech protected by the First Amendment and that any attempt to limit campaign contributions is an infringement on that right.
Right.
These discussions highlight the tension between the right to free speech and the need to ensure fair and democratic elections.
Yeah, they do.
And it's a reminder that the fight for campaign finance reform is an uphill battle against powerful interests who benefit from the status quo.
It is. It's like David versus Goliath.
Right.
Those who advocate for reform are often outspent and outmaneuvered by those who want to keep the system as it is.
Yeah.
But like David, they continue to fight, hoping to slay the giant of moneyed interests.
Now let's shift our focus to a topic that's essential for a healthy democracy. Government transparency and accountability.
Okay.
The Congressional Record documents the ongoing efforts to make government more open and accountable to the people it serves.
That's so important.
It's a reminder that government works best when it operates in the sunshine, and that secrecy breeds distrust and corruption.
Absolutely.
You see lawmakers advocating for a range of policies, from strengthening freedom of information laws and whistleblower protections to creating more robust oversight mechanisms and requiring greater transparency in government spending and decision-making.
Right.
The representative from Massachusetts called for strengthening the Freedom of Information Act, arguing that it's essential for journalists and the public to be able to access government records and hold those in power accountable.
Yeah.
And the senator from Delaware advocated for stronger whistleblower protections, arguing that we need to encourage government employees to report waste, fraud, and abuse without fear of retaliation.
Absolutely. That's important.
These discussions highlight the importance of a vigilant citizenry that holds its government accountable.
Yes.
And it's a reminder that the fight for transparency and accountability is never truly over.
It's not.
There will always be those who try to operate in the shadows.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to shine a light on their activities and demand better.
It's like playing a game of whack-a-mole.
Right.
Corruption and secrecy pop up in unexpected places, and it's up to us to be vigilant and keep hammering away at them.
Now let's turn our attention to a topic that's at the core of our political discourse: the role of government. The Congressional Record documents the never-ending debate over the proper role of government in society, the size and scope of government programs, and the balance between individual liberty and government regulation.
It's a big one.
It's a debate that has raged since the founding of our nation,
Yeah.
and it continues to shape our political landscape.
It does.
You see lawmakers expressing a wide range of views, from those who believe that the government should play a very limited role in our lives to those who argue that the government has a responsibility to address social and economic problems and ensure the well-being of all citizens.
Right.
The representative from Oklahoma made a passionate plea for reducing the size and scope of government, calling for lower taxes, less regulation, and a return to the principles of individual responsibility and limited government.
Okay.
And the senator from California advocated for increased government investment in education, healthcare, and infrastructure, arguing that these investments are essential for creating a strong and prosperous society where everyone has the opportunity to succeed.
Right. Two very different views.
These discussions reflect the fundamental ideological differences that exist in American politics.
They do.
And it's a reminder that the debate over the role of government is a debate about our values, our priorities, and our vision for the kind of society we want to create.
Absolutely. It's like a tug of war between competing visions for America.
Right.
One side pulls for a more individualistic approach, while the other side pulls for a more collective approach.
Right.
And the rope stretches and strains as each side tries to gain the upper hand.
Now let's venture into a realm that often intersects with politics in complex ways: religion.
Okay.
The Congressional Record documents discussions about the role of religion in public life, the separation of church and state, religious freedom, and other issues related to the sometimes uneasy coexistence of faith and governance.
It's a tough one.
It's a reminder that America is a diverse nation with a wide range of religious beliefs, and that finding the right balance between religious freedom and the principle of separation of church and state is a constant challenge.
It is a constant challenge.
You see lawmakers expressing a variety of viewpoints, from those who advocate for a strict separation of church and state to those who support a greater role for religion in public life.
Yeah.
The representative from Pennsylvania defended the right of religious organizations to participate in government programs,
Okay.
arguing that they provide valuable services to communities and that excluding them based on their religious affiliation would be discriminatory.
Right.
And the senator from Maryland urged his colleagues to respect the religious beliefs of all Americans,
Yeah.
even those with whom they disagree, arguing that we should avoid imposing our own religious views on others, and that true religious freedom includes the freedom to believe or not believe as one chooses.
I agree with that.
These discussions highlight the importance of religious freedom as a cornerstone of American democracy.
Yes.
And it's a reminder that finding the right balance between religious liberty and the principle of separation of church and state requires careful consideration, empathy, and a willingness to engage in respectful dialogue.
It does. It's like walking a tightrope. Right.
You have to maintain your balance, carefully considering each step to avoid falling into the abyss of religious intolerance on one side or government intrusion on religious freedom on the other.
Okay, let's turn our attention to a realm that's constantly shaping our world. Science.
Okay.
The Congressional Record documents the ongoing discussions about scientific research, technological innovation, climate change, stem cell research, and other issues related to the intersection of science and policy.
It's a big one.
It's a reminder that science and technology are driving forces in our society,
Absolutely.
and that the decisions we make about how to fund, regulate, and utilize these advancements will have profound implications for our future.
They will.
You see lawmakers expressing a range of views, from those who are strong advocates for scientific research and embrace technological advancements to those who express skepticism about scientific findings or worry about the potential negative consequences of unchecked scientific progress.
The representative from California made a compelling case for increasing funding for renewable energy research, arguing that it's essential for developing innovative solutions to climate change and reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. And the senator from Oklahoma expressed skepticism about the scientific consensus on climate change, arguing that more research is needed before taking drastic action that could harm the economy.
Right.
These discussions highlight the importance of science literacy
Yeah,
and evidence-based decision-making.
absolutely.
And it's a reminder that in an era of misinformation and alternative facts, we need to rely on sound scientific principles and critical thinking skills to navigate the complex challenges facing our world.
I agree. It's like trying to sail a ship through uncharted waters.
Right.
We need to rely on our compass, our charts, and our knowledge of the sea to guide us.
Right.
But we also need to be prepared for the unexpected, to adjust our course as needed, and to keep a watchful eye on the horizon.
Now, let's shift our focus to foreign aid, an issue that often sparks debate about America's role in the world, and the best way to use our resources to address global challenges.
Okay.
The Congressional Record documents the discussions about foreign aid spending, the effectiveness of foreign aid programs, and the balance between promoting our national interests and fulfilling our humanitarian obligations.
Right.
It's a reminder that we live in an interconnected world, and that the decisions we make at home can have a profound impact on people in other countries.
Yeah, they do.
You see lawmakers expressing a range of views, from those who support robust foreign aid programs to address global poverty, hunger, and disease, to those who believe that we should focus our resources on domestic priorities, or that foreign aid is often ineffective or even counterproductive.
It's a tough one.
The representative from New Jersey made a passionate plea for increasing foreign aid to address global poverty and hunger, arguing that it's a moral imperative and that we have a responsibility to help those who are less fortunate. And the senator from Kentucky expressed concerns about the effectiveness of foreign aid programs, arguing that we need to ensure that aid dollars are used wisely and effectively, and that we should focus on promoting sustainable development rather than just providing handouts.
That's a good point, yeah.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
It is.
How do we balance our national interests with our humanitarian obligations?
Yeah.
How do we ensure that foreign aid is used effectively and doesn't create dependency? These are questions that lawmakers grapple with every day.
They do, and we all grapple with.
It's like trying to walk a tightrope between generosity and pragmatism.
Right.
We want to help those in need, but we also want to be sure that our assistance is making a real difference.
I agree.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
It's incredible how much insight you can gain
Yeah.
just by delving into a single day in the Congressional Record.
It really is. It's like a crash course in American politics, policy, and the issues that are shaping our world.
What strikes me is how the Congressional Record isn't just about dry policy discussions
Yeah.
and political maneuvering.
Right.
It also reveals the human stories,
Yeah.
the personal struggles, and the triumphs that are woven into the fabric of our democracy.
It's so true.
We've heard stories of students struggling to achieve their dreams, families facing economic hardship, veterans fighting for the benefits they deserve, and everyday Americans trying to make their voices heard.
It's inspiring and heartbreaking at the same time.
It's a reminder that behind every bill,
Yeah.
every vote, every debate, there are real people whose lives are being impacted by the decisions made in the halls of Congress.
They are.
And it's a reminder that we as citizens have a responsibility to engage in the process, to stay informed, and to hold our elected officials accountable.
Absolutely.
The Congressional Record provides us with a powerful tool for doing just that.
Yeah, it does.
It allows us to see how our representatives are voting, what they're saying, and how they're representing our interests.
Yeah.
We can track the progress of legislation, understand the arguments being made on both sides of an issue, and see how our tax dollars are being spent.
Absolutely. It's like having a backstage pass to the inner workings of our government.
Yeah.
And it's a pass that's available to every single American.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners today?
Yeah.
What can they do to stay informed and engaged?
Well, explore the Congressional Record for themselves.
Right.
It's a treasure trove of information.
It is.
And it's freely available online.
Yes.
You can search by topic, by lawmaker, by date, and even by specific keywords. You can read the full text of bills, listen to recordings of floor debates, and track the progress of legislation through the various committees and subcommittees.
It's an amazing resource.
It is. It's like having a library of American politics and policy at your fingertips.
But it's not just about passively consuming information.
Right.
It's about using that information to become an active and engaged citizen.
Absolutely.
Contact your representatives and let them know what issues you care about.
Yeah.
Attend town hall meetings and ask tough questions.
Right.
Join advocacy groups and get involved in your community.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, never underestimate the power of your voice.
Your voice matters.
Our democracy depends on the active participation of informed citizens.
Yes, it does.
The Congressional Record is a reminder that our government is not some distant, abstract entity.
Right.
It's made up of real people making real decisions that have a real impact on our lives.
Real people, real decisions.
And by staying informed and engaged,
Yeah.
we can help ensure that those decisions reflect our values, our priorities, and our vision for a better future.
It's up to all of us.
This deep dive has been a journey through the heart of American democracy.
It has.
We've witnessed the triumphs and the struggles, the debates and the compromises, the human stories, and the policy decisions that shape our nation.
It's been quite a journey.
We hope you found it informative, enlightening, and empowering.
Yeah.
And remember, the conversation doesn't end here.
It does.
Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep engaging.
Yeah. Get involved.
Our democracy depends on it.